So first week of February. So the first thought you have in the first week of February is that, well, should I have made the decision January starting year 2025? This is the thought that um, most people who are planning or thinking about it or to live, to become an expat, to move to another country, and then that you have done your research. Maybe you have talked to people, you have watched the videos about what's next, what's going to be next move, and even you have a list of countries, possible countries that you have the top five countries on your list. This could be in Latin America. This could be in Southeast Asia, particularly the Philippines. I mean, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. Um, in Latin America, the top one of the top of the list is of course Central America, which is, I say Central America as a whole because we have seven countries, and of course Mexico, which is not far away next to the United States mainland, and other parts, Latin America, especially Ecuador, which has been has been very popular in recent years, which I'm going to be talking about a little later. But if that decision hasn't, if you haven't pulled the trigger yet, pulling the trigger means, not in a literal sense. Of pulling the trigger is like, bam, you have the decision, the plane ticket, and then you arrive, you arrive, the country which is on the list of the first choice that you have. So becoming an expat, right? Some people, make a decision overnight, a week, just making a decision like 10 days before, or some even faster. But if you have thought about that for weeks, months, or years, and then this is the time that it just came, right? And then you make the move. But then you arrive to the place, right? To the country where which is your first choice. What if it's the Philippines, which has been on top of the list in recent years? We have many experiences in the Philippines. I mean, there are many experiences says that we have been, um, learning about it and talk about it. You have talk about it, perhaps not with your closest family members. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And I would say most of the time it's not, because typical, not even with your coworkers in America, in the United States or Canada or anywhere, in Western Europe, in Europe, right? Or Australia. Most likely you're keeping that with yourself because you're sick and tired of the, paying paying high amount of rent, paying your mortgage, and the 9 to 5, thing, 9 to 5 jobs that you bored, and you're really fed up with it, with the whole situation of increasing, quality of life. Then now you did pull the trigger. January arrived, right? Now it's first week of February, and you're feeling the pressure on your own. Nobody's pressuring you around, most likely, but you feel the pressure that how come you didn't make a decision. But now let's get back to that. You have made the decision. You arrive in a place like the Philippines, and then what now, right? You got the information. You have you have plenty of stories and experiences. Many YouTubers has shared their experiences. YouTubers from different nowadays, it's increasing. I mean, there are more YouTubers in that younger generation from the 30 to the 50s in the Philippines, especially Cebu City, Dumaguete, BGC, Negros Oriental, Negros Occidental, even Mindanao, with all the situation going on in Mindanao. But still, people are arriving, and of course, you don't want to mess with Southern Mindanao, which is a little different topic, but Philippines, I'd say, right? And well, one of the most amazing experiences I have mentioned before, that um, YouTuber, one of the best YouTubers that in the Philippines that I admire, not maybe the oldest one, because there are other, of course, there's Maya, Gio and Maya, there is um, this guy, the lion, what is it called? The one broadcasting from BGC, right? I think his name is Greg the Lion or something like that. So, and the other one, Paul, in the Philippines, and others, very well known YouTubers, from back, I was about 10, 15 years ago. But there are different stories you can rely on to, I mean, get the information. I mean, get of course. I mean, if you need current information, you have to be updating because things change, things evolve. I mean, things, but some things are doesn't change. The trend in which retired U.S. citizens, U.S. Americans from the U.S., mainland USA, and Canada, and of course, I think recently we have seen more Australian, flooding into the Philippines, looking for a loved one, looking for the significant other, looking, mostly guys, mostly men, over 90%, 95% of, men in their, of course, retirement age, which is 60 and older, and I think we have uh, seen it. I mean, different experiences, right? Like Maya, Gio and Maya, right? One of the couple, very popular in the expat community in the Philippines, not just in Dumaguete. I mean, Cebu or other places, but very popular and very well known in the YouTube community and the expat community. Well, they split up. I mean, they went their own ways. I mean, there are so many mysteries about behind the story. Their public story, the way they telling us. Of course, we have suspicions of different things happening. That is a publicity stunt. That maybe perhaps Gio was looking for something else that Maya didn't understand. That Maya was, of course, the whole purpose of getting together with Gio was to take advantage of him. So the myth is always there that well, if there is a Western man in the Philippines, alone meaning, well, single most of the time, like I said, over 94% of the time, and then there's also it's the feeling is like this the person, a Western person, a man, moving to the Philippines, I mean, getting to the Philippines is like a typically to look for a significant other, to look for a future wife, and with, of course, I mean, the tradition in the Filipino family is that well, when a female meets the man, is a marriage for life meaning, of course, the Filipino uh, government, the Filipino society doesn't allow divorce, and it's very much a Catholic country. I mean, I don't want to get to religion no more, but very much a 90% Catholic country. I mean, and it doesn't allow not even to the separation in the religious marriage, which is one side of the marriage, and the civilian, which is performed by the government, of course, by the city officials and of course legally, or lawyers, right? So there is no such thing as divorce. So once you marry, I mean, the tradition is that it's impossible almost, except for a few cases, of course, that you can get divorced in the Philippines. With that in mind, I mean, the age gap, we always have the suspicious, I mean, have the thinking that, well, that a young woman who married with 30 years age gap, 30 years age difference with an older man like that, or with older, even, with good benefits. I mean, of course, the price is the man. Of course, there's no doubt about it. The price meaning, look, from the angle of the material things that provide, the benefits that a retiree with a 15, at least average $15 pension, $1,500 pension, and more than that. Of course, the average is $1,500 pension from any Western society, even if this is a British guy or Australian, but mostly Americans, Canadian. I mean, don't get me wrong, and that's a lot. So with the current, exchange rate in the Philippines, which is almost 56, 57 pesos per dollar. I mean, think about that. And the low expenses that in which you pay rent. I mean, you can get a $200 apartment for with two bedrooms in a middle class area. I mean, in Cebu, anywhere in Cebu or Dumaguete, which is popular spot for retirees, and have a really nice life in an apartment complex with swimming pool and with all the amenities, around $200 to $250. I mean, think about what you can do with the rest of the money. So once a female or girl in their 20s, late 20s, or even early 20s, which is the case of um, YouTuber Mark Thornton that this fellow YouTuber that passed away not long ago, he went by the name, his channel name was Every Man Has a Story, right? That he met, this, well, when he arrived to the Philippines, he just came to test the water. I mean, to check it out, to meet, of course, he was in, he met his Filipino co-worker working at a cruise ship that, he knew the stories of, he had his own information, research, but then he went to live in Dumaguete, and he met a provincial girl through friends. I mean, to this young woman, beautiful young girl who, who's now in her 20s. I think she's 23 or almost 24. That in which well he married. I mean, with almost 40 years age gap, age of difference, which sounds a lot, but it's very common. The average, I would say, of age difference is around 30 to 35 years old age difference. In these marriages with foreigners in the Philippines. So it's not uncommon, and people are used to it. You can walk by, I mean, with your young wife with 30 years gap, difference. You can walk by or have, meet at a restaurant with friends in the public places, department stores. I mean, malls. I mean, even in government offices, immigration. I mean, you name anywhere you go, stores, supermarkets, and most people in the Philippines are very much used to see used to see couples like that, which are very much uneven couple, like would say, but people see this. Of course, they're not gonna guess. If I don't want to go describing the color of the skin of somebody, but if you see a Western walk, at a supermarket with a Filipino looking female in their 20s, and the other one, blonde, typical Western, what is the Western profile of a man, of course. I mean, we all know that. I mean, so you see that, I mean, you can tell, people can tell, locally in Dumaguete and Cebu, people can tell that they're not related, blood related, or the one is not Filipino, the other one, yes, the female. I mean, of course, right? I mean, the ethnicity is clear. So what are they? Is she the daughter of the man with the blonde, tall, typically tall? I mean, the one, and that's tall guy. Most likely not. And I don't want to be, too sarcastic about this. But I mean, I'm not. I'm just describing the way society are. I mean, So you expect when you come to live in countries like that, or even Latin America, where I'm telling you this story, which is similar to the Philippines, and I'm gonna relate to my story too. I mean, I have an age gap difference with my wife of 20 years, and of course when I was dating, my story is a little bit different, but it's very much alike to any story in the Philippines where you meet the girl, you meet online. Well, in my case, I didn't meet my wife, my current wife, online. I met the family before, many years ago, over 20 years ago, right? I knew the family, which was related to my other ex-wife. There was a little knowing the family of my current wife. I knew the family. That's what I'm trying to say. But the relationship in my case, right, went for almost 10 years. I mean, it went for a while, more than 10 years, more than that. It went for a while, I was out of the country here. I was out, and then, well, it did develop, and she was patient to be waiting for me, and I was, the relationship went developing over the years. But, when it was time to get married, right, which was like almost a little bit more than a year ago now, that, of course, the feeling is the same. Walking, getting to the store, the supermarket. I mean, I felt it on my skin. I mean, having, walking or getting together, going to a restaurant, even meeting family members, extended family. It's a big family, My wife's family is a very huge family. I mean, huge, meaning in different provinces. They live in different provinces, even different countries. But locally, of course, they are, in different municipalities. I mean, meeting them and gaining that acceptance. So the tradition, you know, think about that. I mean, the Philippines is the same. You have to gain the acceptance of, it's not just the economic, I mean, the finance thing that, oh, if you marry this Westerner, it's like it's a prize. I mean, you hit the lotto, like the feeling of, oh, you really hit the, mega million or something, in which you're gonna have, it's gonna be life changing situation. I mean, it is. I'm not saying it's not, right? It's a life changing event. Marrying a Westerner who has all the benefits at whatever age it is, even if it's 60 years old, 65, 70, who knows? So in Mark Thornton's story, which is, I'm relating this story, I mean, sharing it today, there was, of course, the age difference was over 40 years old. And this young Filipino girl, Jen, and well, eventually, they married, soon after, and they stayed together almost like 5 years together, very much. They even have a child, a 1 year, 1 year old boy that now with the new widow, very young, I think it's 23 to almost 24. I mean, well, she's the one with the widow and an orphan now, right? But many friends, because Mark Thornton, when he was, alive, and he was, with his YouTube channel, he made many friends. Not because of his channel, he was really caring person. He had a very nice personality. Even people from not just locally in Dumaguete, not just his YouTube, I mean his viewers, his subscribers. Like, well, I'm one of them, still are. To his channel, which very much I think is gonna be still maintained. I mean, hopefully, But anyway, without him, I don't know what's gonna really happen. But it's a different subject. But what I'm here trying to realize that that relationship in which it's one of the love stories of all time. I mean, it's gonna the legacy, not just that a young Filipino woman, girl, Jen, the wife, and now the widow, came out of poverty, maybe with benefits, different benefits that she lived all these years with him, and of course there has to be inheritance. I mean, yeah, I'm not going into details about that, but there most likely she's gonna be set. I mean, she's gonna be okay with help of many friends. And we saw what happened when he was taken to the hospital. I mean, we in an emergency situation at the ambulance, and the friends came on. The closest friends. Mostly American, of course. I mean, and Australian. I mean, and other. He made friends all over the world, and locally in Dumaguete, people from different nationalities. I mean, he was very caring man. Of course, the incident that happened. There was an incident at a coffee shop in which he was apparently with his young wife, and somebody said something, and he responded, he replied. I mean, something just sparked, like a bomb, something flipped. Don't we have, you and I, that moment when something just clicks, snap, right? A snap at a split second. Then we regret about it. We regret, oh, how could I have, done this different? Possible that incident on that coffee shop that triggered, I think, his health issues. I mean, he already had previous health issues, but most likely that the what happened with that, it was a legal issue now because there was an incident or there was an exchange. I think there was a physical thing conversation. I wasn't there at the moment. I assuming that a little confrontation like that could have triggered a legal situation in which he was involved, of course. And we are not saying that he was the one who provoked. No, the other, he has one young wife. Something said that wasn't comfortable. He wasn't comfortable with, and with good reason. Think about. I mean, I could have done the same if I was in his shoes, right? With a young wife. I have a young wife too. I'm 20 years different. I'm not saying I'm gonna do that, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm not gonna do that, but possible. You have to look when you sign up on the marriage certificate. When you raise your hands, the pastor said, "Would you protect you? I mean, care for your wife, protect, love, and everything." Yes, I do. I mean, there is a Yes, you say I do. I mean, so if something was the incident, the incident that took place in that coffee shop, I mean that with his health situation, in which he had it previously. I'm not saying that was the issue. That was the reason that his health deteriorated. he already had some issues. I mean, he always spoke. He always was talking about for a number of years with his YouTube channel had 3 or 4 years, very successfully, by the way, very successfully. He was very kind person and likable guy. So I'm not saying that that triggered, that was the reason for it. I'm not saying even that his young wife was the reason. I'm not saying that. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not implying that. All I'm saying is that one thing can lead to another one. I mean, one is a domino kind of effect. I mean, one thing leads to another one, and of course, even if you live in a paradise island anywhere, Isla Bonita here in Belize, I mean, in Central America, the Bay Island I just mentioned, Islas de la Bahia, one of the beautiful best provinces in Honduras, Costa Rica, I mean, Bocas del Toro. I mean, there, I can name, in Panama. I mean, I'm sorry, Bocas del Toro in Panama. There's so many beautiful paradise, like, I'm not saying paradise in a biblical sense, but paradise like places in Central America, in which you might think that, well, I'm gonna just be under a coconut with them, sitting, I mean, laying down in my hammock, and just with the breeze, with the coconut in hand, or pina colada, this and that. I mean, yes, in a way, yes, of course, in a way, in some way, but things never is perfect in life. I mean, there is an adjustment process in which, think about that. I mean, you live in a Western society for 60 years or 65 years, 70 years, because some people move to Latin America, Ecuador, even Central America, Mexico, looking for better quality of life, and they're right. I mean, they do it. They really make the dream come true. In which in Mark Thornton's case, of course, it became, that was his dream, to one of his dreams. He was very much after divorce, after all these work issues and now health issues. I mean, he always described his life as being really happy. His last months were, I mean, being really happy. I mean, of course, there were issues that he didn't go deep into it, but as we watch them almost, every day or every other day, in my case, I have, watch him very frequently. I mean, and he was, like I said before, one of my inspiration. I mean, well, he had great influence in which for me to start a new channel, which I'm so grateful to him and his widow, of course, now, and his friends, of course. He always, he was a loyal friend to his friends, and his friends seemed to be, really good friends. I mean, they were there at the hospital the day when he had the stroke and he had the whole issue that ended up his life. I mean, the Philippines, a couple of months ago, a little more than, close to 2 months ago. And guess who was there at his bedside for 36 years? His young wife, I mean, of 23, I mean, very young, right? 36 hours, not 36 years, I'm sorry, 36 hours by his bedside, with not moving. Even his friends described that his friend went to get something to eat for her, to get some rest. I mean, she had no sleep for 36. Think about that, 36 hours. I mean, straight, meaning by the bedside, ICU unit, as much as possible. Of course, you can be on top of the, somebody who's been taken care of by doctors. Of course, they will say, but she was right there. That's don't we, each one of us dream that a young, a significant other, wife, or somebody, if you have a situation, an emergency situation, to be by your side, 100%, 101%, like Jane did for Mark Thornton. I mean, I think we are. That's even at the end of his life. I mean, the story went that, and this was witnessed by his friend. His friend, I mean, Mark Thornton's friends are describing his last 36 hours at the ICU unit over in the Philippines, in Dumaguete. So they're describing how things went, and she was always caring for. This was sudden, the stroke that came suddenly. I mean, it wasn't like he was in his bed for days or weeks, that he was like all like a vegetable or anything. Like, he was healthy. I mean, he was putting on posting his videos, uploading his videos. Not even, I think, couple of days before he did post his last video, which is online. I mean, we watch it, of course, in his memory, and of course, I mean, it's a dream come true. Not just remember when you say, when you're marrying. I mean, you put the hands like this and everything, and say, I do. I swear that I'm gonna care for my wife, or the spouse. Right? I'm not saying just the wife, but the spouse. And the example that we see in Jane and Jones. What if Mark Thornton's widow or wife, right, were 65 years old or 60 years old? Would that have made any difference in for his life? Would that have extended his life? I mean, we never know. There are so many mysteries in life that is hard to know, right? But what we know is that he was 100% happy. And his young widow, Jen, it relates that she is very emotional. I mean, and genuinely emotional, right? About, that his relationship, that was his first love, basically. He was his first husband. He was not single man. She didn't have another child. He did. He had other kids from his previous marriage, in the U.S., right? Which are now older, and he spoke about that a little bit on his, on his posting, right? But the current, what happened in the Philippines, I mean, it was shocking. I mean, when I found the story, I mean, the day it happened, the day after, man, I was, the reflection was how life can be so fragile, and then every minute counts, every second counts, man, in our lives, and we should really take God-given, life that we have, each one of us, take it and do the best you can, guys, for your significant other. Try to be loyal and hopefully, cultivate, mature that relationship. And that's the mature the relationship, cultivate and grow it, make it grow, feed it, and I think we will have the story of, a love story. This is more than a tragedy. What happened, it's a love story also, that we learn from it, and we take it the best possible, the best that we can take, and apply it to our lives, guys. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching. And Central America is, if it's one of the destinies, or Latin America, which we have similar, we share cultures with the Philippines. I'm not saying with all Southeast Asia, because mostly it's Oriental. Well, Philippines is Oriental country too, but because the Philippines was conquered by the Spanish, just like Latin America, right? From Mexico all the way to South America, and part of the Caribbean was conquered by the Spaniard kingdom, right? A long time ago, over 500 years ago. The Filipino was, colonized by by the Spaniards too. So like places like Negros Oriental, Bonifacio, Grand City, I mean, all these Negros Occidental, and there's a culture, even though that the English is the first language, is the official language of the country, but in some of the areas, provinces, the Spanish is very much common to hear. I mean, mixed with the local dialect, right? So we share plenty of, the family tradition, uh, the respect for elders. We share many, many cultures with Latin America. Uh, like I said before, I mean, the family tradition, the respect for the elders, respect for the rule of law, respect for, there is no ethnic tensions really. I mean, Latin America is hard to see the ethnic tension you see in some Western societies. There is no ethnic tension, and even for foreigners coming, expats, don't worry, guys. Don't worry. I said don't worry in a way that I don't want to be light with using this phrase, but it's easy. You can adjust. I mean, little language perhaps, or if you prefer, like Belize, which is an English-speaking country. But as Central America as a whole, like I was mentioning before, right? Panama, Costa Rica, are very much, I mean, you can be a Westerner, right? In San Jose, Costa Rica, or Panama City, and even provincial area like Guanacaste in Costa Rica. Very common people, the locals will treat you just like another next door guy, next door family, And of course, yeah, people, many, many, many people in Costa Rica, Panama too, uh, use English, even a little broken English with accent, But there is, communication shouldn't be a problem. Adjustment of the culture shouldn't be a problem too, because very much is in Honduras too, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, I mean, especially now El Salvador, I mean, has been very upfront, adjusting, very much a modern laws that they are adjusting to, and Honduras too, and other countries. They are adjusting, parliaments in these local adjusting their laws to make it, more acceptable. More acceptable meaning to attract, a large crowd of expat community with no prejudice, guys. Whatever is going in between governments, that's nothing to do with the people. Okay, the people are the people. We all, and the proximity with the U.S. and Canada is only 3.5. In some cases, just 3 hours away. With Canada, it will be like 6 hours, very much, right? With Europe, of course, longer. But it's very common, to see that the expat community in Central America is growing, and of course, you have to learn from what a little bit as you adjust it to the process of being an expat, and have surrounding and have a better quality of life, of course, with the local customs, the laws, the banking, doing businesses with the banking system. What are the requirements? Like, for instance, you have to have a resident card to open a bank account in Honduras, for instance. You can't just open a bank just as a tourist, as a visitor. But there are other ways. I mean, you bring your credit cards, your paper, whatever and you can use it in local banks anywhere, not just the capital city. The second most important is in San Pedro Sula. You can basically use any debit card from the US or anywhere, basically. I mean, debit cards, credit cards, and they are like a small banking system, what they call cooperativas, where you can really open your bank account. But the requirements are not really hard. The requirements, well, you have the residence, or you're in a process of the residence card. You with an affidavit, mostly some banks will accept. By law, they have to have that. But if you to settle down here with your whole family, bringing from U.S. or from Canada, it's fine too. But let's say that you just, I mean, you come, I mean, and planning to meet. Maybe you are retired, let's say, or in your early 40s, early 30s, even early 30s, nomad, digital nomad, with the people that work with the computer. They bring their work in their computer, settle down in anywhere in Latin America or Central America, in Honduras, Guatemala, and then you work from there. So say you meet somebody else, somebody with your significant other, your spouse or your future spouse. I mean, once you settle in, I mean, the process is easy. Immigration offices are the last time I was there a couple months. I mean, a few months ago, I say a little more than a couple months. Um, Only like 3 or 4 people were the local office in the capital, Tegucigalpa. I mean, think about that. I mean, uh, uh, of course, they have local offices or in other cities, in main cities like Choluteca, main city in San Pedro Sula, and a couple more. But the main, office here for to process your documents and stuff like that. I think they're trying to make it easier as we go. And the rest of Central America, they have Costa Rica has laws about attracting foreigners, attracting expats, right? Especially if you have a pension, Social Security monthly pension that, and other pensions too, of course. So, um, well, I gave you a little bit of overview, and well, if you like this video, guys, uh, uh, please like and subscribe. Those of you who haven't, and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.